So you're wanting one thing of him, and he's saying, I'm not that dog.
Right.
And that's where we have conflict. I can't make dogs social.
Mm-hmm.
I can help you socialize him correctly,
Okay.
but we can't make him something he doesn't want to be.
Right.
The way this would work is we have Fred, we have to do some conditioning stuff first. We can't just jump into behavior, okay? So that's usually a couple of classes. By the third class, we can jump into socialization with the group of dogs, okay? Now, if I see Fred start to tense and I correct him with the e-collar, an appropriate e-collar that he will feel and he will respond to,
Mm-hmm.
is I correct him if everything's been conditioned properly and he's taking to it. It'll snap him out of it, like you said, and he's going to want to leave the situation.
Mm-hmm.
If the dog pursues, we have to step in to correct that dog, so that he goes, okay, if I get tense, I get corrected. However, you will take care of the situation for me so that I don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But now, you're going to have to do that with every dog.
Right.
That makes them uncomfortable. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where things get tricky, because then you're going to be at the park and it's going to be constant managing dogs away from Fred that he's not familiar with.
Right.
Okay? Now if it's, hey Jesse, I don't do any of this kind of dog run type stuff. I want to socialize Fred with my friend's dog that he's never met before. That's actually realistic,
Right.
because we can structure that. There is a structure to it. I teach you how to introduce him to dogs correctly. And you would repeat the exercise, and then over the course of time, Fred may open up to that dog. So the way dogs work is, in order to deter a behavior, a consequence has to happen as he performs that behavior. So if you don't want the tension, you can correct the tension, absolutely. But in the beginning, one of two things is going to happen. If I correct him while he's tense, like you said, the thought is already there.
Right.
Is we're most likely going to push that action. He's going to become defensive. And then, because people go, oh no, I tapped my dog, it made them aggressive. And I go, yeah, because the dog was already thinking about it. You have to then follow through with more corrections until the dog stops the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So the dog goes, oh, that tap didn't mean to escalate the situation. It meant to disengage
Right.
and do something else.
Right.
Okay? So then, what's going to happen is potentially you correct him, he blows up, but you can't step in to pull him away. You have to make him back off with the collar. Okay? It has to happen with the collar in order for the next time to be successful. Okay? So now you're in a situation where it's like he's with dogs he doesn't know, and you're there, and now you're going to get flack from the people around you, and they're going to think you're making your dog more aggressive when you're not. It's part of the process. We have to correct the dog and make the dog back off in response to the tool in order for him to learn that escalating into aggression is not acceptable. Okay? And then just the other nuance, of course, is following through with the dogs that are in pursuit of them. Okay? So that's really tricky. I've done it before. Most people give up on it because it's so awkward for them.
Right.
It's not really realistic. It's one thing if it was here in my facility with dogs, because it's my space.
Mm-hmm.
The only people who are going to be here are ourselves and my employees,
Mm-hmm.
and then the dogs are under control already.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then if he did something, I'm not worried about is this dog going to reciprocate, because we wouldn't put that kind of dog in there.
Right.
But then also if he did something, we correct him, I know these dogs aren't going to respond. Because if I'm correcting him and he's shrieking like a Shiba, then it draws the attention of all the dogs, because they're like, hey, what's going on? You know? So that's the complexity of that. When it comes to, like if he was being leash reactive, like lunging and barking at dogs, I would say that's definitely something we need to address, and that's something that can be addressed.
Yeah. No.
But when it's more nuanced, like, hey, like teach my dog to like bark instead of be stiff and like attack small dogs. You know, so what would happen is, because again, he has to perform behavior and have a negative go off as he's doing the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Unfortunately, we can't proactively tell him like, hey buddy, don't tackle small dogs. Hey bud, don't tackle small dogs because it's not polite or whatever. He has to technically tackle the small dog. As he's tackling the small dog, the negative is happening.
Yeah.
And it might escalate the situation because he might think it's the small dog. Now we gotta jack up the power and again make him retreat from the situation So that the next time, should it happen, and I tap him, he goes, okay, that tap was to tell me not to perform that thought.
Yeah.
When it comes to the socialization aspect of it, it kind of just, it is what it is. Unless you're willing to put yourself in that kind of situation, you know, with like correcting him if he blows up, and then making him disengage, like.
Yeah, my concern is, I mean, in your experience of doing this with other dogs in his scenario, do they then just never play with the other dog? Like, do they just constantly associate the other dog with correction?
So in the beginning, it can work a number of ways. So when it comes to behavior, there's never any guarantees, because there's too many variables. So the variable is, let's say you take them every day, and half the old dogs left. So you get half old dogs and then half new dogs. And let's say, for the sake of the example, that stays consistent, okay? And every time you take them at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's the same group of dogs with the new dogs, but it's the same dogs. Is over repetition in time, he could potentially open up, okay? Because the new dogs became the consistent dogs. But in the beginning, you would see him be apprehensive because he's got to gauge, why am I being corrected? So it's rinse and repeat. So in the beginning, not uncommon for the dog to think it's the dog that caused the correction to happen. So then you'll see him avoiding them. But eventually he's gonna go like, okay, like, I've been avoiding you, I haven't been corrected. What happens if I let you into my space a little bit more, right? And he allows it to happen. He doesn't get tense. The dog sniffs him and walks away, and he goes, oh, okay, so I didn't get tapped there. All right. Then another dog comes in, tries to sniff him. He tenses up. You remote him. He goes, oh, wait a minute. I got sniffed by that dog, but nothing happened. I got sniffed by this dog, something happened. What's the difference? And he has to start to kind of differentiate why the tap happened until he starts to associate, oh, it's when I snap, when I get tense, when I tackle small dogs, this thing goes off. But if I don't make those decisions, nothing happens. And I'm able to coexist with these dogs. And that's if everything's going well, right? Because then let's say he's doing good, but then one of the new dogs runs and tackles him. And that's now a negative experience. Now you're set back, and now it's like you're trying to remedy that problem now, you know. So in the beginning, yes, he's going to be kind of but I mean, he's indifferent anyways for the most part. Like, there is no even play drive there, so it's like, so it doesn't really matter, you know. But that's how that would work in the beginning. You'd see him just be like completely not interested, and then eventually over time he could open up, and he may stay the same. He's like, you know what? If you don't want me to get in trouble, Mom, I'm just not going to interact with dogs. Yeah. That's the only way I can handle this situation. And we get this stuff all the time, because when we deal with aggressive and or aggression type responses, we always want to see avoidance first. Okay, so if I have a dog that resource guards and like will protect their bone, and I start to walk towards them, I want that dog to go, you know what? I don't like you getting close to me with my bone, but I'm not going to fight you. Instead, I'm going to walk away from this bone. Or take this bone elsewhere. That's avoidance response. And that's better than starting a fight because I was walking too close. Right. Okay? So same thing with this guy. If dogs make him uncomfortable, we have to teach him avoidance. But then he'll be in a constant state of avoidance that it would take either a long time or lots of repetitions, or he just doesn't get around to it in terms of the socialization aspect to it. If he was a player, and you're like, yeah, Jesse, like he played like crazy with the dogs.
I mean, he plays with
his friends.
Yeah, I mean, not as much as he used to, but he does like to play.
I mean, it's like my guys. My guys are 8, 9 years old. My pit, my chihuahua. They were big players when they were younger. Now they're just like whatever. Yeah. You know, granted they're twice his age, but as they get older, you know. Oh, yeah. I mean, if I were to approach this, the way I would approach it is there has to be some kind of foundational discipline to build off of. It's not as simple as put the collar on the dog and like zap them when they do something you don't like. He has to understand what that collar is, how it turns on, how it turns off. I'm realistic. I'm not gonna like feed you BS to make you think that, you know, because I actually have something going on with another client, and her dog is having issues with dogs charging off leash, and he gets defensive. And I said, yeah, I'm like, my dogs would too. I'm like, because they don't understand that that's a non-threatening dog. And she's like, well, can I correct them for being reactive to that? I'm like, technically you can. I was like, but it's like, I mean, it's like punishing someone for defending themselves when being attacked. Right, or assuming threat, and not like gambling on the side of caution, but like, you know what, I'm gonna just defend myself because I don't know what your intention is. It's like punishing someone for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, alright. I guess I'm not doing everything wrong then. I guess I didn't fail him. I guess it's just him.
No, it's just don't lick outlets, buddy.
Frederick.
Yeah, no, you didn't fail them. I get people that do things by the book. Everything by the book. Dog's still screwed up.
Yeah.
Okay? I've had people go out and find breeders and, you know, top of the line dogs, stuff like that. Still genetic screw up. You know? It happens.
Yeah.
But in your case here, like, I don't find anything wrong with Fred. You know? It's just that you're wanting to be with him at the dog park and stuff, and he's just not having it anymore.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's just too many variables at that, you know, dog park. So like, I'm sure if you took him to daycare, continue to take him to daycare, they probably keep him with the same dogs that he knows or whatever. Because they're like, okay, we know this is Fred, and we're going to keep him with the familiar group, but it's easier because they're a daycare, and they control who he interacts with.
Yeah, that was my big thing. So my building has a pooch club in it. And in the beginning of daycare, he did great. And as I told him too, like, do like one at a time intros. And he did great, but then there was too many dogs in such a small space, and then he started getting reactive. So then we went to the West Loop location where they actually have trainers there. And I said to the trainer, you need to do one at a time intros. Do not let them sniff him for a long period of time. As long as they don't sniff him, he's fine. So trainer started doing one at a time, and I'm watching this all on video. And then the trainer picks up Fred, then puts him in the room with all the dogs, and they all come running over to him, and I'm just watching this, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And of course, like, the trainer picks up Fred just as he starts to freak out and stuff, and so then Fred failed the first day of daycare, and I was like, well, no shit, he failed. You set him up for failure. Like, you did the one thing I told you not to do. Like, what the hell did you expect? And, I mean, I was just done. Like, Fred.
That's why here, that's just a bag of treats up there. That's why here we have the 3-day evaluation. So the first day is, the dog's just here.
Yeah.
They just walk around, they get used to the space. The second day is we walk them around and dogs around them, get them used to just dogs, you know? And then we see if there's any energies they don't like or if they have a threshold. And then day 3, we do the one-on-one pairings. And then if we see the dog is super like playful, then we know we can put them in the group and we just start to go 2 dog or 3 dog or 4 dog. But yeah, most places are like, oh, okay, this is fine, throw them in the group.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd leave you with, if you decided to try to do something, is he'd need 2 classes on heel. Okay, and then I'd probably just dedicate, because there's 3, 6, 9, and 12-week programs, I'd probably just tell you to do 6, because 2 we're going to need for the heel, and then the last 4 we would just use to try to socialize them, showing you how to do it correctly, and then seeing if you can do it in the group type setting. You need to be muzzled, of course, and then it's just you have to rinse and repeat. Continue that.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, we can fix it in just 6 hours. It's like, here's the information.
Right.
Now you got to repeat it.